So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Thank you very much for being here. It will be our last talk for today. And we are very lucky to welcome Katerina Perez, Jewelry Key Opinion Leader, and Donatella Zappieri, Jewelry Business Consultant. Thank you very much.
So thank you for the introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. So Donatella Zappieri, jewelry consultant based in Italy, working internationally. And today I have the pleasure, the privilege to interview Katerina Perez, who is one of the most important, authoritative influencer in our jewelry industry. And Katerina is celebrating her 10 years professional anniversary. And she has given us the opportunity to be with her today, getting to know as much as she's developed, progressed in the jewelry industry. Katerina, today you have 417,000 followers, all super passionate and super following you throughout your journey in this industry. And Katerina was also awarded in 2021 as the World Influencer, right? And this was done by the World Influencer and Blogger Association. Today, Katerina is not only an influencer, she's a journalist. You write wonderful stories about jewelry. You are also an educator, because you also came to one of my classes with my students, and she's also a brand consultant. And what I thought was super interesting is the statement that New York Times made about her Instagram account, saying that her Instagram account made the industry talking. And you got it rolling, because throughout those 10 years, you really got all of us super, super engaged in this wonderful journey. So I leave you the floor, Katerina. I will be there asking questions and activating the discussion, and we would like the audience to participate and ask questions, and feel free to raise and ask any kind of question and curiosity about those wonderful 10 years.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for being here and sharing this moment with me. Yes, so this talk is a part of the celebration of 10 years of this jewelry journey, which I started in 2013. And today we want to reflect on the 10 years, what's been going on, how has the industry changed. So I will give you my insights, but equally I would love to hear your points of view as well. We'll be talking about different subjects. We'll be talking about communication, advertisement, design. We'll be talking about what jewelry has, what kind of role jewelry has in our lives. Because when I started, so my background is retail. I used to be working in boutiques on Bond Street in London. And the reason why I started writing about jewelry is because the clients, the end consumer, they will come and ask, so how many carats is here in this ring and what's the price? And we all know here, people who are related to jewelry, that it's not about carat weight or price. There is so much more that contributes to that final price, right? There is originality of the design, there is techniques. Sometimes it takes months to develop an idea, right? And this also has to be taken into consideration. So that's why I started writing, to educate the whole world and to share my knowledge and to inspire women to love and wear and appreciate jewelry as much as I do. So
you've been, I have to say, super inspirational. And I really would like also to share this compliment to you, because I think you've always found the very nice balance between the visual and the content. So the way you've been illustrating jewelry, and also Katerina has been supporting and talking not only about big brands, but she's always been super, super supportive also for emerging talents. And the way you've been doing that has always been an amazing way, really from a visual point of view, but also, as you were mentioning, the storytelling, you know, all the secrets behind any single piece of jewelry that you were showing and portraying.
You know, before we go further, I just want to make sure you can hear us well. Yeah? Okay, perfect. Because for me, it feels like, the sound is not so great, but
Yeah,
wonderful. Okay.
I also have the same feeling, but is it
But you can
fine
hear everything.
for the audience? Okay,
Amazing.
thank you. So, ready for the first question?
Yeah, go on.
Or you
Let's
wanted-
interrogate.
Well, because my first question was really very much about getting an overview about the way jewelry changed in the life of a modern woman.
It's a good question because I keep on coming back in my mind to those years in retail, 7 years I spent on the shop floor, and understanding the client's desire, understanding the client demands, how they shop, what they want to see on their fingers, ears, and so on. And I feel like in the past, jewelry was mostly about status, so it's a status symbol. It was a lot about gift for a special moment, which it is still now, but this was a big role of jewelry in the past. It was a lot about investment as well. Clients would often look for a bigger size diamond because they want to invest their money. And what I've been watching over the past, I'd say maybe 6-7 years, which came to the fore, and I hope you agree with me, is that there is a big need of jewelry as a part of self-expression and as a part of your daily wardrobe to say who you are with the piece of jewelry. We don't only wear clothes anymore, we want to accessorize. For me, jewelry is like when you put makeup on, right, and you leave the house, ladies, you put your lipstick the last thing, right, just to make sure everything looks perfect and in harmony. So for me, jewelry is that lipstick which you have to put to have the complete look. And maybe in the last 6-7 years, I really witnessed that big fashion houses introduced jewelry in their catwalks. So they really showcase that jewelry has become an integral part of one's wardrobe. So we see it now on catwalks. We see more of jewelry on red carpets. We see celebrities wearing jewelry to not just red carpet events, but also, I don't know, their singing gigs, their special events, birthdays, and so on. So jewelry is much more visible nowadays than before. And actually, one of the reasons why I started my work is because I simply didn't feel like there was enough visibility of jewelry in general. Right?
Absolutely.
We'd see some in magazines 10 years ago, right? We'd see jewelry in magazines. We would see jewelry, where else? In the boutiques.
In the boutiques, and this was it.
Yeah, and very often clients would be even scared to go inside because they felt jewelry is expensive, it's for special occasion, it's intimidating. We can't just go and see because they'll feel like they're pushed into a sale, and salespeople work with push, maybe now still as well, but at that time for sure. So nowadays, I feel like the more you see jewelry, the more you get used to it, the more you feel comfortable around it, the more you understand it, the more you're comfortable buying jewelry. And this is what's been happening over the last 10 years. Consumer has become more comfortable.
Absolutely. And if I may also add, from a design perspective, so much has changed also because on one hand, as you were mentioning at the very beginning, jewelry was more as a statement piece. Was the opulence, show the carat and show how much you value. Whereas today, I think also because of this contamination with fashion, design is much more going with the accessorization. And I think what is also super interesting to watch is that very strongly fashion houses now, they are dealing with high jewelry, which is maybe also a question I'd like to share with you. How do you see also this twist of fashion houses going towards very high-end jewelry? And also from a design point of view, what is your feeling about that and the way it's changing for women's attitude towards jewelry?
Because I have a vast retail experience, sometimes I question why fashion maisons started doing high jewelry or precious jewelry in general. Is it because they want to have an extra add-on sale, something else to sell to their clients? Or is it because they genuinely appreciate the art of jewelry and want to introduce it as a part of their brand? I don't know if any of you have something to say, an opinion about that, because I'd be very curious. But we all have witnessed that Dior fashion house is very much known for their jewelry. Louis Vuitton, initially fashion house, is very much known for their jewelry nowadays. I think Prada has just launched their first fine jewelry collection. Gucci has become big on jewelry. This is their third, I think, high jewelry.
I think it's the
Second
third,
or third.
yes, third collection that they are
collection.
launching.
So
yeah.
really is also because it's a part of daily look, is out there. But maybe because they want to have something extra to to sell.
Of course. And I think it's part of the overall evolution of women's way to accessorize themselves. So let's go back a little bit to the beginning of your career. You know, you started, of course, as a journalist, as you were mentioning, content creator, sorry. And then, of course, you started your blog 10 years ago. In which way communication has changed compared to the beginning of your blog? And how, you know, do you see this stretch from, let's say, printed advertisement into digital?
Okay. Yeah, really 10 years ago when I started writing about jewelry online, lots of people thought, what is this? Like, who wants to see jewelry on Instagram? What is Instagram at all? And why would they even go online to read about jewelry? At that time, print was the leader in communication about not just jewelry, but generally magazines, papers, and papers had supplements about jewelry. And I was one of 3 first people who started jewelry Instagram because I simply wanted to give jewelry more visibility to make it maybe even more maybe accessible. You know, I wanted a person to, if they want to see jewelry, pick up their phone and be able to see all the wonders that are at this exhibition or other places. So I wanted to bring them the best of jewelry to their phone so they can easily get inspired, right? And what I've seen over the years that communication about jewelry has changed drastically. If we go back 10 years, so how was advertisement based? It's a printed page with a pretty lady dressed in jewelry,
Very
and this was
static.
the advertisement. Yeah. And it does exist nowadays, but since we read print less and less, and we understand that we're becoming advertisement blind. So if we see an ad, we simply ignore it most of the time nowadays. So I think the biggest difference is how we advertise jewelry these days. And social media has a big role to play here. Nowadays, advertisement is more inspiration, it's more motivation, right? You come to my Instagram, you see something you love. I don't advertise blindly and just like want to put as much jewelry as I can out there. I share what I love, what I genuinely enjoy, and what I believe is worth the attention. And by this passion and by this love for jewelry, people can feel that passion and they want to, you know, have the jewelry which I show. Or it can be online advertisement also through, say, an article where you talk about a wonderful collection of jewelry. So the advertisement has become more native advertisement. It's more genuine. It's more about the experience, the knowledge. So the one big thing about advertisement is through knowledge. So on Instagram, for example, there is so many reels and posts which tell you about diamonds, that tell you about styling, that tell you about catwalks. And even though we're not looking at this kind of posts with the thought to buy, if we see them, sometimes we're like, oh, actually, I really like what she's wearing. I want to have the same. Or now I've learned something about diamonds and I'm more comfortable in buying diamonds and so on. So yeah, the way we communicate about jewelry has changed a lot. And if we go back 10 years, jewelry, high jewelry shouldn't be seen online because it's something more of a museum piece or for a private collection. That nowadays it's okay to see $1 million or $5 million necklace, ring, and so on social media just on the screen of your phone. So I think this is one of the biggest changes.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's also, you know, the way, and this is where I really wanted also to have your point of view about the marketing and advertisement by brands. In which way, you know, are brands using the social media, the digital communication? Because as you were mentioning, you know, we're really talking about inspiring, creating a dream towards, you know, the digital. But there again, I also would like to get your opinion from a marketing point of view, and in which way brands are really developing that on the social media.
I think, you know, one of the big changes is that it's okay to work with, for example, with a blogger, right? 10 years ago, if I would approach a brand, they'll be like, what do you do? You're blogging? Like, why would they even need your services? Then nowadays, it's okay to have a brand ambassador, a celebrity who would wear jewelry on the red carpet, a person like me who talks about jewelry, to help spread the word, to showcase jewelry. You know, I think also why brands work with people like myself is that we show jewelry in our own way. We have our audience who likes us for who we are or for the way we communicate about jewelry, and it gives the brand an opportunity to see their jewelry in a different way, which is quite interesting. But I like what you said also about selling the dream. So you can really, through online, through content, you can really create the scene and to showcase jewelry in a way that it will be appealing to a certain type of audience. This is why nowadays when the advertisement is created, it's no longer about just a pretty lady sitting there in a luxury entourage.
Right.
It's about who you're trying to speak to with your advertisement, right? And according to your target audience, you create a campaign which can be very cool and quirky, which can be very luxurious, which can be very relaxed street style. It very much depends on the person who you're trying to talk to.
Yeah, and while you were talking, a thought came to my mind of, I won't mention names, but I was pretty surprised at the latest haute couture and high jewelry shows that a very famous French brand was showcasing their jewelry with models in jeans and Adidas shoes, which again was interesting in what you're saying, it's about lifestyle. And it goes back again into the changes of wearability of jewelry. So you can still wear your diamonds, even if you have your jeans on. And through social media communication, I think you and the other opinion leaders, you were able to break that ceiling and really open up to a lifestyle. And this is, I guess, what consumers like about it.
Yeah, I don't know, guys, if you feel the same. I feel like we became more relaxed with our jewelry. It's okay to wear diamonds when it pleases us. It doesn't have to be a special occasion or a gala dinner, right? Do you guys wear precious jewelry on a daily basis? Or not necessarily daily, but with something to go and see your friends for lunch or to go out shopping or something like this? Or do you have to wait for a special occasion? Would you wear jewelry for not special occasion? Raise your hand. And you feel relaxed about it. So I think, it's become a norm to wear diamonds, to wear precious stones as a part of wardrobe, and to really express yourself and show your style and show your personality and show your preferences in jewelry.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's extremely interesting and important to mention. And this brings also my, let's say, my wish to ask you further questions about this evolution. First of all, I'd like also to ask you the evolution at retail for jewelry. I mean, you started at retail, right? Your first job in London. And also, I remember also, I also started in retail, by the way. I remember also people were being scared into getting into a jewelry store. Now, retail had to make a new leap, a new change. Would you like to share with us in which way you've seen this change, or what could be also the best recipe for retailers now to
Do we
develop?
have anyone here from a retail store or someone who is a jeweler who sells their jewelry to consumer? Okay. Well. So, okay, again, I'm going back to my past. And so 10 years ago, when I was working in retail, there would be a client coming through the door. You'd meet and greet them. You'll show them the assortment. You'll be trying to get the details, obviously, to bring them back, their phone number and their email. And that was it. And in one of the boutiques I remember I worked at, we had to handwrite the details. We had big books where we would have to store all the data handwritten, what they've bought, and then you go through all these pages and pages and pages of writing trying to make sense of it, okay? So this is crazy. Nowadays, there are CRMs where you store all the client information. You don't have to remember, you can search for their birthdays to give them a nudge and say, come and buy something for yourself or for your wife or anything else. So the technology has developed so much. There is no more need to handwrite or have books. It really helps to really remember all the key data, remember all the key dates, to be able to generate ideas. Why would I contact the client? How I would contact the client, and so on. One of the big changes also social media. So if before would have an email and a phone number, now if you know an Instagram of potential clients, it's very easy to talk to them directly. And that's why what I've noticed that salespeople in many respected boutiques and brands, they have their personal Instagram account, personal professional ones, where they show jewelry and where they build their audience like a micro-influencer, and where they have the opportunity to talk to their consumer directly. Also, what social media does is that every person has their mini diary on their Instagram. Well, not every person, but those who are there, right? And for you, imagine if I was 10 years ago able to have a glimpse into a person's life to understand their taste, their style, and so on, it would have been so much easier for me to sell them. Nowadays, there is an opportunity like that. So salespeople can go and research. They can go and find a potential client themselves. And I didn't have the luxury of that. And I think that really brings new opportunities for jewelry sales and for jewelry salespeople, and to reach their targets and so on, and do over the budget and
Absolutely.
all those
Absolutely.
things. Yeah.
And I think there is also an element of experience in the shopping behavior. Once again, I guess, I mean, as I said, I also started in retail. So not only I had this meticulous work I had to do, that writing all the labels by my handwriting, which was kind of a pain, to make. But still, I also remember that we only had, as you said, selling, buying, and so on. Whereas today, jewelry stores, they want to have their consumer engaging also with an experience, with a lifestyle, and they're much more open also into making them try things on, accessorize, and so on. So
I want to ask the audience actually, do you guys shop jewelry online? Raise your hand if you ever bought some jewelry online. Okay, we have like, okay. There you go. So this is something which wasn't heard of when I was on the shop floor 10 years ago. And I believe this is such a great thing to bring jewelry closer to the consumer. You can't buy a pair of earrings and say, oh my God, it might not fit because I gained weight or something like this, right? It's much easier to shop jewelry online. And I think more and more people are really comfortable with that. It comes to the fact that we trust the brands that we like. We go to the boutique, we see jewelry in real life, then we can buy it online if we want to. It's much easier to shop gifts. It's much easier to see the assortment nowadays. We don't have to look for the time when we have enough hours in the day to leave the house and go to a brick and mortar store to see the assortment. So, but also I think the big change came through COVID. So we all were first shocked with this, with those years, but I think they had a lot of positive effect as well. Because through COVID, we understood that it's possible to buy not just jewelry, but gemstones online. And I think brands, they had to quickly reinvent themselves to understand how are they going to talk to the consumer since they couldn't see them personally. So things like selling through WhatsApp, things like selling through Zoom, through virtual demonstration. There is virtual try-ons of jewelry nowadays. I think it was such a great push for the industry to act and to find new ways of selling. So,
which became, again, much more personalized. And then also talking sales, talking fairs. I think when we started our career in the industry, one of the most important fair, was Basel World.
Who remembers Basel?
Who remembers? There you go. So
Good old Basel.
Yeah. So I think you all remember how static, serious, formal this fair was. But this was the rendezvous for the jewelry industry and watches, of course.
Yeah, Basel was like the start of the year where brands would present their latest collections of jewelry and watches. And I think everyone would anticipate that time. And I remember as a journalist, I would go with my notebook and I'd come back from Basel with pages and pages and pages written up with all the new collections, all the new trends. But I'm not sure if it's related to exhibitions, but mostly to maybe the way the industry is functioning. Because in the recent years, I've really noticed that there is either no need or there is no possibility to really create many new collections. So nowadays, jewelry fashion has become slower, which probably is a good thing as well. Jewelers would launch a new collection maybe once a year, and then they would enrich existing collections with new models. So the turnover of novelties has really dropped. For me as a journalist, of course, it's a bit sad because I love writing about jewelry, and sometimes now I feel I write more about trends rather than new collections. But at the same time, I feel like often jewelers really put so much thought and research into what they create. And another thing I've noticed, and actually if we have designers here, I want also your support on that, there is much more talent coming through. 10 years ago, you have to be like an established brand, or you have to be really sure of your capability and be sure that you can make it in the world of jewelry. Nowadays, because the industry has become more relaxed, there is more opportunities to buy stones, there is more mentoring even, there is more courses, there is more information about jewelry and gems. It's easier to even learn online, which wasn't the case 10 years ago, right? Now there is many more new emerging talents coming through, and this is why we have, the area with
Wonderful
talented
area, yes.
designers and so on. So for me, it's a great pleasure to see, and this is why I continue my work, because I see so many new designers coming through and so much talent. I want to talk about them on social media. That's why I don't focus only on big brands. It's all about who is great out there, who creates the best jewelry, what is the originality of the idea, how do they inject their DNA into what they've created.
And I think this also goes back to social media communication, because I remember, having a talk, for instance, here with Nadej Tota, and she was talking about the way she selects emerging designer, and most of the time she finds them through Instagram, which is, again, to your point of how important digital communication has become, and in which way also digital communication gives the opportunity to emerging talents to be known, to be seen, to be spotted, and to also have, of course, their opportunity to be in the spotlight in fairs like this one or others around the world.
Well, Instagram has really become as a business card, really. This is a brand in a glimpse. You can really understand so much when you go on one's page. And in fact, when I hear a new name, I don't go on the website anymore. I go on Instagram first.
Yes.
Because this is really a visual story which helps me to form an opinion or to really understand what a jewelry is about. On the website, you have to click here, click there, to go and take too many actions to get the information you want. And nowadays, because of social media as well, the attention span is so small that people would prefer to quickly go on Instagram, check the brand's pictures, understand what they're about. And do you agree, guys? Do you go on Instagram when you hear about a new brand, a new name? Yeah, I see the heads going great.
Nodding. Okay. Well, I think there are also, in these 10 years, other important moments probably to highlight. I really wanted also to kind of ask you the switch and the changes that we've seen in new materials, the sustainability support that we are facing, and somehow how you've seen this happening, and in which way do you think sustainability will also affect strongly our industry when it comes to manufacturing, but also when it comes into stone supply and so on and so forth? Because you were mentioning Prada earlier on. I mean, they made of sustainability, one of their key communication tools when launching the fine jewelry collection. And I see, a lot of is happening around this topic. So I really wanted to hear your opinion and the way it has been developing in these 10 years.
So, okay, let's talk materials, and then we'll talk about sustainability, right?
Perfect. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Because in terms of new materials, I remember years ago, obviously everyone knew about gold, but I think jewelry has become, since we're talking self-expression, and not just self-expression for a person who wears the jewelry, but also a way to express for a creator. Because designers wanted to explore new avenues. They wanted to inject more color in their jewelry. They wanted to play on contrast. They wanted to create jewelry more suitable for their personal style. So I remember titanium was always there, but it wasn't used so much. Wallace Chan was there and everyone was looking up to him. But since it's such a difficult material to work with, not many designers dared to touch it. And slowly, I saw, okay, titanium became more recognized and more used. Aluminium came into play. What's the other materials? Wood was always there, but designers started exploring wood much more. And now, even if you go to the gallery of designers here, you'll see materials such as, I saw the designer who uses chips, like microchips from phones.
Yes.
And,
yeah.
Anything can be
Recycling
jewelry.
that. Yeah, sure.
Anything can be art. Depends what you do with this. So I think this is one of the great development in the jewelry industry, that designers don't shy away from unusual materials anymore. On the contrary, often they use it to showcase their unique new
Uniqueness,
style. Yeah,
of
exactly.
of materials.
Yeah, and most importantly is that consumer understands it nowadays. Of course, there is, well, a small number of the consumer who likes jewelry as a form of art and not investment, and who understand the uniqueness of designs with unconventional materials. But this number of people is growing. So hence, I'm sure with time we'll see more and more new metals, new, wood, stones even. And you know what? I'm really hoping that we'll be seeing stones which were considered not jewelry material being used more and more often, because I don't believe in nature there is anything ugly. You know, if an emerald has inclusions, it's still a beautiful stone. It just depends what you do with it.
Definitely. And again, I think there is a kind of a, if I may say, democratization of design and approach to jewelry, because it's true that on one hand, before, everything had to be super, super precious, whereas now, as you were mentioning, it's really the combination and the extravagance, and at the same time, the breaking the codes of what used to be extremely traditional. And this, I think it's really this freedom of creativity. And I think somehow the lympha also comes, as you were mentioning, from the emerging designers, because they are really there to show that you don't have to be scared on being traditional, but open up new ways and new...
You know, we talked about big fashion maisons creating jewelry nowadays, but I think one thing I didn't mention, which is crucial, is that there is a new line of jewelry which is called fashion fine jewelry, which is jewelry created with precious materials, but at more accessible price points, right? So this is, I wouldn't call it a trend anymore, but it only emerged maybe 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And this led to a lot of creativity. This led to designers using kind of more semi-precious stones or not perfect stones. If they're emeralds and they're included, it's fine, because here we're not creating an investment piece. We're creating something that boasts a beautiful color or a certain design and so on. So
definitely, which also leads, as you were mentioning, to the usage of colors in jewelry. Because on one hand, I remember 10 years ago and even before, it was fully white, diamond, diamond, diamond.
Or three, right, emerald, ruby, sapphire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And today, I mean, look at the beauty of semi-precious, even though I don't like the word semi-precious, because why should they be semi? I mean, still precious. And the versatility and beauty of design that you can get from there.
Exactly. But I think it also comes to, again, to the visibility of all sorts of stones, right? To more appreciation and more understanding of all different stones. We see them at exhibitions, but I think it's thanks to also big maisons who started using spinels, topaz, tourmalines in their designs. They stopped only focusing on top 3 stones or top 4 stones, and they started using more experimental stones in their designs. And this showed that actually they are equally precious. They should be taken into consideration and invested in.
Yeah.
So I remember, 7 years ago when Louis Vuitton introduced the collection, they always looked for very unique stones, and they introduced the collection with spinel and with...
This was a breakthrough.
Hold on, spinel. There was also opals, and there were tsavorite garnets. And at that time, even me as a journalist, even though I'm a gemologist, I've studied gemology for years, I was like, wow, they're using these unusual stones in their design? Like, why do they do this? Yeah. So now it's a norm to use something extraordinary like this.
Definitely. And I think it's also the imperfection that makes the perfection. Because talking about inclusion, you know, some of these color stones, they do have inclusion because they are natural. And very often you see the enhancement of that makes and builds up into the beauty and into the exclusivity of the design. So talking materials, technology, this is where I think what is also interesting is the fact that technology is supporting and helping much more jewelry.
For sure, yeah.
Jewelry, you know, since the Renaissance has always been like handmade and still is handmade. But in the recent years, I don't know if you've noticed the twist towards technology has really supported very strongly also creativity.
Yeah, exactly. I think it helps with creativity, but the techniques in jewelry have been passed through so many years and they haven't changed drastically. So it helps to create new designs, but the basis of it all, I think it can carry on surviving without extra technology. I don't know. But it all contributes to the development of the industry. So.
And let's try to touch on the topic of sustainability.
I think this is something that should have been touched upon many years ago, but I'm glad that the industry came to the terms that it's a very important subject. And nowadays, lots of companies communicate on that, but I believe it has to be a norm. Like sometimes I feel it's almost used as a selling technique, but it just has to be a norm nowadays. Sustainability, traceability, fair mining, and so on. We're very much aware of the environment, of the living circumstances, and so on. So, I mean, I don't think we should discuss it. We just should implement it more and more.
Definitely, definitely. And as you say, it shouldn't be just, a communication or a strategic element in your brand manifesto, but it should be part of, the overall supply chain and so on.
And I think it's a responsibility of every jeweler and every brand to communicate this to the consumer, to the audience, because it all comes from the consumer. If they understand it and if they want to have a jewel which is made with fair mine gold, or they know that the diamonds that is in the jewelry is from the trusted source and so on, jewelers will automatically have to create something, sustainable.
Exactly, definitely. Iconic moments and iconic jewelry pieces. While you think about it, I remember you in an iconic moment. If I can share that.
Yeah, sure. I'm interested.
Going to the Cannes Festival, and you were doing the behind the scene for Swarovski brand. For me, I mean, of course, I know you since many years, but this was a moment of iconicity because you were on the red carpet, walking, but at the same time, you were telling behind-the-scenes stories about the jewelry you would see. Any more iconic moments? I mean, you have many, but some that you remember, or iconic pieces of jewelry that you've been wearing?
Okay, I'm going to show you this one because they've printed an article about me in the magazine, and I think this is the piece of jewelry which I always refer to. You see, there is this butterfly made of titanium with the zircon, and this is my most, important purchase of a jewelry because of the way I felt about it when I saw it. So it was in Basel quite a number of years ago, and some friends of mine who are actually exhibiting here, they've created this butterfly. It's a huge earring, solo earring, and they said, okay, wear it and see how you enjoy it. And I believe that sometimes we don't choose jewelry, but jewelry chooses us, meaning that we put it on, and it's like, I can't take it off anymore, like I have to have it. Jewelry is a luxury, but sometimes it's a need, right? Because if you feel one with your piece of jewelry, you feel amazing, it gives you the energy, you feel great. I mean, and what can be more precious and more valuable than good emotions, right? So I wear this earring at the exhibition for a while, and then I see a friend of mine, he's like, okay, it's the end of the day, let's have a glass of champagne. I have a glass of champagne, and then I'm like, okay, I can't part with this earring. I don't know what to do. It costs a lot of money, but it's something I need to have in my life. So I go to this jeweler and I said, look, what do we do here? Because I can't leave Basel without this earring. He's like, okay, fine. So pay in installments, okay? This is friendship, it's great. I'm like, okay, fine, great. Thank you very much. I can do that. I'll work very hard and I'll have it in my collection. And since then, for me, this is like my mascot. This piece of jewelry, this earring, I wear not just for occasions, but whenever I want to feel good, whenever I go to see my friends even, and I know it's huge and it's a statement, but actually, as I said, this is a part of my personality. I'm not a girl who shies away from big jewelry. I love to wear a statement jewel, to start a conversation, to inspire another woman to go, oh, what is this? I want to have it. So for me, it's a pleasure if I have a reaction like this from somebody. And frankly, at that time I was living in London, even taxi drivers were asking me, madam, what is this in your ear? How good is that? Yeah, right? So this is, it's like one of the iconic pieces of jewelry which I have and which I've experienced. But Of course, I see hundreds of jewels almost every day because I do a lot of research, and there is so much beauty out there. So I believe that my Instagram is like my virtual jewelry box. So this is, everything you see there is something I'd love to own, but I can't. That's why I just collect it virtually. So I'm happy. If I put it on, I feel, I get a feel how a woman would enjoy that piece. For me, it's good enough.
Thank you. And they suit you very much also. Definitely, definitely. Before we talk about future, what is next? Just a question came to my mind while you were explaining, You live into the jewelry world, I guess 24 hours a day, kind of. Yeah. How do you keep yourself informed? Reading, browsing through, what are your, if I may ask, your tools, in your everyday research?
For research? Of course, Instagram is one of them. And I think this is possibly the key tool because it gives an opportunity to discover brands which I would have never heard of through the recommended section. I get a lot of brands who get to me through recommendation because nowadays a lot of people from the industry know about my work. Of course, Google is a great way to learn.
Absolutely, yeah.
And books. I have a huge collection of books. I can't stop. I buy all the books I see about jewelry. So if I need extra information, I go and refer to the book.
Thank you. Thank you.
And exhibitions.
Because you travel like crazy also. Yeah. You are away from home 60-70% of your time, if not more.
Don't say it because
I shouldn't say, okay, I shouldn't calculate it. But you are really a globetrotter, and I think this is also giving you this great opportunity to be in connection with our industry and to really see so many different items and pieces and collections.
But, my work is a responsibility in front of my audience, okay? I'm not doing it just out of pleasure or as a hobby.
Of course not.
Because I feel my audience, they wake up every day to see what's going on in the world of jewelry. If I'm not there to bring them the news, of course there are other sources, but I have my loyal audience, and being a blogger, it means a lot of responsibility. And not just like post when you feel like it, but you know that your audience is there and they need it. And it's your duty to go to exhibitions, to find the best, to show them what you've discovered, to make them excited, to make them look forward for more. So it's a big job.
I know, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about next step. What is next?
Next 10 years?
There you go.
What is next for the jewelry industry? I want you to involve in this conversation as well, because I have my opinions, but I'm equally interested to think what you have to say. What do you think is the next for the jewelry industry? For sure, what we didn't talk about is lab-grown diamonds, right? Because this is something that's very much discussed nowadays, and this is something that affects the industry immensely.
Strong.
And I believe it's like being a vegetarian meat eater. I always talk about that we can coexist. There has to be just clear communication. And it's not a bad thing, lab-grown diamonds open opportunities for more casual purchases, but at the same time, when everything is disclosed, why not? So I think the future of jewelry lies into more creativity, because I can see that it's growing constantly. There is no limits for creativity. New technology, and not just manufacturing technology, but also to help with creativity. We have a designer here who I want to hear from. Because I see that designers use iPads now, new programs for designing, not just the typical 3D and things like that. I think new materials will be coming through, and new materials, some experimented one, whatever we see around us. There is more and more jewelers who use artifacts and put them in jewels, who use some unconventional objects, like really unconventional objects, because jewelry is a way to keep something precious with you. And it doesn't have to be precious material and precious stone. It can be an object which we have in our hands, right? I believe in education, so I think there is more avenues for education online. And online is the future for the industry, about learning, buying, selling, exploring, and so on. So we're inseparable with our phones, and
Absolutely, absolutely. And you were talking about digital communication, the evolution. Um, Everyone is kind of talking now about this new frontier, the metaverse. Jewelry sold in the metaverse.
Yeah, that's a good point.
What's your opinion about that? How do you see this happening, developing? Are we ready yet, or will it take a little bit longer, I guess, into the being ready for that? What are your thoughts about it?
Well, it's definitely already happening, especially for those who are quickly to catch with trends or who really understand the value of metaverse. I definitely believe it's the future. I personally don't get it just yet because maybe I'm a bit old school. I want to touch my jewelry. I want to wear it. For me, it's more like a simulation of a life. And I want to live a real life. I don't know, but it's definitely something that's going to be developing in the future.
Yeah, and as you say, I think it's something worth looking into. As you said, a lot of brands are already kind of putting a little step into that. Let's see in which way it will affect jewelry, because I do agree with you that jewelry is something that you want to touch. You want to. I remember, one of the most interesting quotes about Mr. Bulgari was, "I select stones with my closed eyes." So you have this element of touching and feeling that it's so important about jewelry, but at the same time, the world evolves, so we also have to be, into the understanding of what it's going to be.
But you know what? Let's ask the audience. Do you guys believe metaverse will be quite big in the jewelry industry in the future?
It's coming, yeah.
Before, nobody trusted about internet, but now nobody can live without internet. Nobody understands what is metaverse, but it's coming. That Google is putting, I don't remember how many $1 billion in such business. Then, even you don't want, the new generation is coming. The new generation is living in metaverse. Then for me, I don't trust, but in the end, it's coming. Then I speak with Google, and they tell me, "Oh, we plan to create 10,000 employees in Europe just with metaverse. We plan to put $1 billion in Europe just for metaverse." And we don't trust, but it's coming.
Yeah, as you say, it's something that we have to be prepared. Maybe there will be ways that jewelry will be related to that, but it's something that we have to keep our eyes open and understand further. Yeah.
It's the next standard is metaverse. We don't trust. I don't trust, but my kids, all the young generation are playing online with games. They're living another life that is not our life. But in the end, we need to focus on to see what's going on, because especially the creator, like some are here in our community, they live in another life. Then we need to be ready for this. I think you are connected with the brand on what they say, the brand about metaverse, the big brand like Cartier or Bulgari.
No, they're definitely aware of it, and they're paving the path for themselves to be present there. They're already Place Vendôme and Metaverse, and some boutiques are already bought, if not the whole Place Vendôme. So really, things are already happening. So, and this is the future which we can't avoid. Are we ready for it again? No, not many of us, but it will be there, right? But still, nothing will substitute real jewelry, right? No matter what happens in metaverse, we live real life. We want to wear it close to our skin, and yeah. Do you guys have anything to add about the evolution of the jewelry industry within 10 years? Maybe you have some of your own opinions and experiences in design and...
Thank you so much. I'm Frédéric Manet from Paris. I'm jewelry designer. I founded my own design studio in Paris. I would like to to tell a few words about what I am thinking about the future of jewelry. I started my career working for traditional brand on Place Vendôme. For me, it's a huge legacy, and I respect that. But I decided to move 10 years ago to found my own design studio, and now I can tell I created new brands. One of them is named Kanati. Katerina is a godmother because she introduced me a young entrepreneur living in Bahrain, and we created a kind of hybrid company. It's not jewelry, it's not watches, it's objets d'art. The name is Kanati Objets d'Art because it's a kind of museum to wear. And the goal is to recycle unusual materials. Of course, you use horology, gold, precious gemstone, but we put inside each items something unusual, not expensive, but in terms of emotion, it's huge. For example, you use metal from Formula One, metal from Concorde plane, metal from space rocket. For example, we had a partnership with NASA for using the Discovery shuttle, but only one piece, ancient artifact. That's why I believe recycling, it's very important, and we can see the renewal of what the antique reliquary was in a very sustainable way. It's just my humble experience in terms of new materials, but very precious, but ethic at the end. Thank you. Yeah. New precious. Thank you.
It's like new precious, right? We're redefining the word. What is precious? Because what's precious for me might not be precious for you, and so on. It doesn't have to be expensive to be precious, right? So.
Hello, I'm Céline Rose David. I'm expert for an auction house. And a few years ago, we were the first auction house to propose on the auction sale sustainable gemstones. Everybody was laughing at me and said, okay, you come with your violins and children who are working and things like that. Everything was sold. And it was a choice for precious stones, but also for the meaning of those precious stones, and to support the communities and people who bought all these stones. They were so happy to be a drop in the ocean. And I suppose this is the future, if we are many drops. And as you said, we talk about sustainability now as it was something commercial. It is not. This is the future. We have to change the habit of using material and exploiting everything on Earth, but on the right way. That's it.
Thank you. Okay.
Any more questions from the audience? No? So I'd like maybe to add one more hint to our conversation, since we've been talking about new materials, recycling, accessorization. I think we are also living a new way of approaching jewelry. Walking around Gem Genève, I haven't seen ever so many gentlemen wearing brooches. And I think this is so, can I say, beautiful, charming, and I love the way jewelry has also become a mean of accessorization in a different and less traditional way. So I also wanted to get your opinion about that, if you've also noticed this new evolution and in which way you think this will be progressing further.
I think it all comes to the point of jewelry being the self-expression. You know, if you look at the red carpets, okay, go back 10 years ago, it was all about big perus and very often matching earrings with the necklace and so on. Very classical statements and gorgeous, but very typical and traditional. Nowadays, red carpet, what happens? Each celebrity wants to stand out. So in the end, we see celebrities wearing like 10 rings on one hand, ear cuffs. I remember Charlize Theron, she was wearing a bracelet, a tennis bracelet in her hair parting. What's her name? Salma Hayek, she was wearing a Boucheron necklace in her hair, like a hairpiece. There were brooches seen in her. So jewelry is becoming more experimental, regardless of the price. Those are high jewelry pieces, but when it comes to self-expression, it doesn't matter that something is costly. You just want to really showcase your personality with your favorite piece of jewel that makes you feel like this is the look you want to achieve. So, and I think with men also, I'm quite happy to see this trend really growing fast, is that men are embracing the beauty of jewelry again, and they feel more comfortable, and it makes them look more beautiful, huh? Come on. Bracelets, brooches, rings, and so on.
Yeah, and then I think, again, when you were talking about education, if you go back to history, gentlemen were wearing jewelry.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden, this became a kind of a no way, and now it's back. It's this freedom. It's this idea of accessorizing with personality, which to me, it's a very strong element of evolution and changes.
Exactly.
So
my only wish is to see more jewelry being worn in the years to come, and more creativity to come to life, and more daring designs.
I think we have a bright future ahead.
Exactly.
Based on, everything that you've been sharing with us today. Really, thank you very much for, sharing with us your passion, everything that you've been developing, achieving, and also to be, how can I say, a wonderful mirror of our jewelry industry.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the next 10 years, to see what's there for the industry.
No, definitely. And you are really, our important...
the eye of the jewelry.
Eye on jewelry, there you go. And also the way you wear jewelry, because it goes back to what we were saying, you have your art, your aesthetic, and this also brings a lot into what you do and the way you illustrate the jewelry industry.
Thank you everyone for being here and participating in this discussion. I hope you enjoyed the subject, and if you want to carry on discussing it, feel free to send me a direct message. I love talking about jewelry. I do reply to comments and to DMs.
You do.
So
absolutely.
I love my community, so I'm always happy to discuss what's there in jewelry. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.